The friends I've made as clowns over the years are family. They really are. I mean, like I said, we laugh together, we cry together now, we watch our kids grow up.
If you want to trace the source of Greg DeSanto's humor, start with his family.
I was born in Burlington, Vermont in 1963. I did not live in Burlington, Vermont very long. I was adopted. So I was in an orphanage in Burlington, Vermont, and my parents adopted me when I was 2 weeks old. So I really only lived in Burlington probably about a month. So I am Italian, but I was adopted into an Italian family. And a very loud, boisterous, Italian, fun-loving family. So holidays and celebrations were loud and big and fun and laughs. So I think that maybe sort of carries on into the kind of comedy I do. And again, going back to the Jackie Gleason thing, he was always yelling and falling and screaming at Alice and all this stuff. So, I kind of went, well, that's kind of like a good Sunday afternoon at the house here when the aunt and uncles and the cousins and everybody comes over for spaghetti and macaroni or something. So, I think maybe that had something to do with it. There was that a very sense of family. And definitely certain ethnic aspects of it, as an Italian growing up. And, my grandparents were a part of my life, like every week. We would go to dinner. They'd come to our house and cousins would come over. And it's very different now. I don't know if that's quite as prevalent as I know for my daughter. She doesn't see her grandparents but a few times a year, and compared to I see them every week, sometimes more than once. So I grew up with them being part of my daily life, whereas it's a little different. So I think maybe that had some influence on the Circus family when I got into the Circus. I consider it very important to me now, our Circus family. There are people that I've worked with and known for 33 years now that we laugh, and the social media has allowed us to reconnect and stay connected, and we laugh about things that happened 30 years ago when we were all young, and our biggest concern was who's going to buy the beer and look at those pretty showgirls. And now it's, you got arthritis too, and when's your colonoscopy? Because that's what we got. That's where we're moving up to, So, and it's funny that we talk. It was like, wow, life was so easy when we were 21 years old, 22 years old. We got on that train on a Sunday night, and we would have a beer, and they didn't have we didn't have television on the train. We just had to talk and sit and watch the world go by, and and then wake up in another town. And just, okay, what do we do? Tuesday, we go to work again. Monday, what are we going to do? We're going to go do our laundry. We're going to go to a movie. We're going to go, it was like our life was so simple in comparison to mortgage and bills and college educations and everything.
Well, clowning, it seems to me, is much more of a brotherhood, sisterhood, sorority, fraternity.
Yeah.
If you belong to clowning, it's a special.
Absolutely. I think the friends I've made as clowns over the years are family. They really are. I mean, like I said, we laugh together, we cry together now. We watch our kids grow up. We've seen that second generation, sometimes even third generation. There's clowns I work with that were maybe a year or two older than me that are now grandparents. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, when did that happen? And it happens. And, the fact that I still get to do this is, I consider myself very lucky and blessed that I still get to do clowning. And I know a lot of people, they've gotten out of it for whatever reason. They've moved on in their life to something else. They found something else that they wanted to do. I've never found anything else that I've wanted to do. So I've always been very happy that I've been able to do this and find an audience and find work. For the last 33 years, I basically have made my living as a circus clown.
Tell me how you met Karen then and how she got into all this mess.
I met Karen at Ringling Bros Clown College in 1993. She had applied to Clown College, and she was very excited because she lived in California. in Sacramento, and she heard about this clown college, and her dad had just passed away, and she had had a business in California where she did some performing, and she did some clowning, on the like a birthday party type event clown. And, I think her dad encouraged her, like, you know what, you've wanted to do this. She was 29 years old when she applied to clown college. So that's like quite a bit older than most people. So, but he said, you know what, do what you think you should do. And so when he passed away, she did that. She applied to the Ringling Bros Clown College, and she was very excited because she likes to go to the beach. And so she gets her little letter in the mail saying that, you were accepted to Clown College. And guess what? For the first time in 22 years, we're moving Clown College from Venice, Florida to Baraboo, Wisconsin. She goes, where the hell's this Baraboo, Wisconsin? What is that? There's no beach and there's no ocean in Wisconsin. And so she was a little perturbed about that. But she went and she realized, this is cold up here. And Clown College was held right at the end of the Circus World season. They held it on the grounds of Circus World Museum. So they started around the 1st of September, and it went to Halloween, around that little Halloween time. So it was cold. And they graduated in the tent. So it was a whole nother experience. So instead of going to the beach and picking up shark teeth and shells, she went to Walmart and bought sweaters and leg warmers. She was none too happy. But I was a teacher at the Clown College that year. I had gone down every year since my second year on the show. They would let me go to Clown College and help instruct. So this year and the year Karen went in 1993, I was there the whole session. So I was there for about 2.5 months. So I got to follow her from the first day to her graduation. And the director of the Clown College, Steve Smith at the time, the first day of Clown College, when the staff is all there, they have all their photographs of all the students, and he kind of goes over them, and this person is, and whatever, and this one is, you got to be careful, and something wrong here or something there, whatever the situation is. But a lot of times it was just technical things like, they might be diabetic, so be careful if they look like they're, they might need to take some juice or something. But he would also look and go, this girl, this one, keep an eye on her. She's funny. And it was Karen. And I said, okay. So I heard this funny girl. I want to see funny. I like funny. So, but we didn't work together in clown. Like I didn't really teach her. She was in there, but she didn't really have. We didn't do a lot of one-on-one anything. It was like we did the pie throwing and all the stuff. But she worked. But I watched her. She was very funny, and so she got offered a contract at the end to tour with the Blue Unit, which was the same unit I was on. So she got transferred, and after Clown College, she came on the Blue Unit, and there was an opportunity to do a track gag together. And I thought she was, a very, very pretty girl. And so I said, well, I'd like to work with Karen. Because a lot of times I would like to try to work with some of the newer clowns because it kind of helped them a little bit. And it also kept it fresh for me because they keep me on my toes. So I said, well, we had this gag, and it's a lemonade. We're kids selling lemonade. And it was a lot of water throwing in each other's faces and all this stuff. And one thing led to another. And we got together, and people knew it was serious because we had a little vinyl mat that we had to lay out because it was a water gag and it was a track gag, so it was only in the front of us, but we spilled quite a bit of water. And so at the end, normally she was a new clown, so she would clean the mat. Well, people said something's going on here because they'd see me out there helping her clean the mat, and they go, he has never helped anybody clean a mat in his whole life. Something is up with this. So that's their first. People tell me later, they go, we knew something was going on when you cleaning that mat, because they go, you've never cleaned a mat in your whole life. I said, well, you're right. And so we got together, and then one thing led to another, and then she stayed on the show for 2 years, which were my last 2 years, her first and only 2 years, and we decided to get married in Boston while we were on the show, and Father Jerry Hogan, the circus chaplain, married us in the north end of Boston in the Little Italy section. So we had all of our circus family there, and our families, respective families from New York and California came out, and then we left the show the month after that. That was the end of our tours there. So, and then we went to Big Apple. So we moved to New York, and then we just worked on cruise ships and worked in circuses. We went to Hong Kong and taught Chinese clowns for 3 months, and we did all these things. And then we started on Big Apple. That was the first tour we did right after Ringling.
Okay, now I want to go back just a second to Clown College, because, you know, there's that old bromide that those that can't do it, teach it.
Yeah.
So in your case, you were able to straddle both worlds. You did it and you taught it. Why do you think that was so? And why do you think you...
I think I was effective as a teacher, if I was effective as a teacher, and I hope I was, but I think because of the people that taught me. And it was the Mark Anthonys and the Lou Jacobs and the Frosty Littles and a lot of the road clowns that used to come down to the clown college when I was a student there. They would bring a lot of the clowns off their units. And so I'm thinking, these guys are doing it every day. So I would really pay attention, and I got a lot out of them. Because I'm like, wow, I mean, Lou Jacobs was a god. You know, you sat there and you worshipped at the throne of Lou, you know. But the clowns that were on the show doing it every day, I'm like, okay, you're only about 5-6 years older than me. So I'm going to I could ask you the questions. I mean, I could get the big questions from Lou. But for the nitty gritty stuff, I would go, so what's this train thing like? And what's with the showers on the train? Do we have showers? There's no showers on the train. You know, that kind of information. And then they would just, you know, they would kind of, you know, talk about, you know, how important things were like props and how to maintain them and how, you know, it's an important part of your job, and not just performing, but maintaining your look and your makeup. You had to look good. And so I think I got a lot of that from them. And so when I was given the opportunity to do it, that was kind of like I was the road liaison, I guess, in some ways. And since they used to let me go for more and more time, so towards the end, I was there most the whole session. So, and I was also able to communicate back with the Clown Alley as they would submit material, because a lot of times Clown College would produce the material in advance for the show, for the new show. So they would say, oh, we're going to send our walk-arounds down. Can you make sure that they get built right? Or make sure they're going to work for what we, you know, so I could be an eye on the prop production as well as helping the new clowns learn the craft. And I think I was very open to, like, I'd always sit with them at lunch and dinner, and, you know, it's like, if you want to talk about something, I'll be more than happy to. And I think they felt comfortable around me, so I think that maybe, you know, I don't know, I guess it's your example. You know, that's, you just be the example you want to be.
Were you the class clown then?
I was not the class clown. No.
Well, then you sort of more than eased into producing clowns, correct?
I did. How
did your job change all of a sudden from the walk around and the showing people how to do producing?
You know, it was. I remember my first year we did a gag where it was an audience participation gag. They had a bunch of kids from the audience, and they wanted to do a tug of war between the clowns versus the greatest kids on earth. And they had these big tables set up, and wrestling was real big then, WWE or F or whatever that thing was. And so we came out, the clowns were all dressed up like wrestlers, you know, crazy costumes and cavemen and all these weird things. And we were going to come out, and they were going to bring kids in from the audience, and they had these two elevated tables, and between the two tables was a pit, a foam rubber thing, and it was filled with soap, green soap suds. And so they had a bunch of real circus kids, and we had a tug of war with a rope, and it was rigged. There was a flag on it, so it wouldn't move the rope at all. We all mimed it, but the kids really thought they were pulling, and the little flag would move on a string back and forth. And then they had a midget, Shandor Rasky, who came over with Mishu. He was dressed like a little kid. They put him in little kid Garanimals and little polo shirt and everything, and he looked like a really shrunken apple. He was like, you know, a 70-year-old little kid. And the kids would look at him and like, that's not a kid. You know, they would know. But he stood in the front, and so when we would pull, he'd swing out on the rope over the soap and hang there, and the mother would come out of the audience, which was the wardrobe lady, and she'd pull him back up, and then she'd climb on the thing and start beating the heck out of us with her purse. And then the first two clowns on the top, she'd hit them, and they'd crack them in the head, and they'd flip and fall into the soap suds. So we're casting this gag, and I remember Frosty Little says, all right, we're going to do this. We need two clowns to fall in the soap. And every senior clown stepped back. It was like that gag. You know, I'm like, I'm the only one standing here in the front. I guess I'm going in the soap. And he goes, you're going in the soap? Good. And I'm thinking, well, that's not a bad job. I mean, it's a little work, but you're in the front. You get the last laugh. You're going to get this big laugh falling into the soap, and the lady's going to hit you over the head with the purse. You're going to fall in. You're kind of featured. So I said, well, I don't mind doing this. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know what I was getting into. I'm like, they're going to put you out there, and I'm going to fall in this big somersault in this big tub of green soap suds and everything, and had to clean up after every show and fix my makeup and everything. But I remember going, why did everybody step away? Don't you want to do this? This is why you're here. And they just didn't, because of the mess. They didn't want to really do it. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then that was my first 2 years. The third year, they did the 20th anniversary of Clown College. And they were recreating a lot of the old classic clown routines, the firehouse routine and the clown car. And one of the routines they wanted to do was the painter's routine that Michael Polikoff, had done in the early 60s on Ringling. And then they had done another version with the Brizio clowns in 1969, and it was the wallpaper hangers. They were going to decorate a studio of a ballerina, and she came in, and at the end they make a mess, and she comes back in, they scoop her up in a wheelbarrow. And it was like, I said, I want to do this gig. And they're like, you just fell in the soap for 2 years. You want to get most soap on you? I said, this is going to be a featured ring spot in the show. I said, by then I started really getting into the history. So I'm like, but Coco did this, and then the other guys did this. I said, this is a classic routine. It's kind of derived, even like Charlie Chaplin, Laurel Hart, they always do these routines when they were paper hangers. And so I said, that's like a classic comedy routine. I want to do this. And so I said, well, if you want to do it, you're going to have to put your makeup on every time. 5 times on Saturday and all this stuff. I says, yeah, but I'm going to get laughs. So this is pre-internet, pre-information highway. We had no way to find out how Coco's gag went. I didn't know Coco at the time yet. And so we just scrounged, and circus enthusiasts came to us. They said, does anyone have any movie film of this thing? Because I know he did it in Ringling in the 60s, and that's about, there was a guy who used to sell videotapes in the 80s, Jim Ridnour.
Yeah.
And Jim goes, well, I got this routine on the tape here, and so he sends me this videotape, but it's 8mm film of Coco, and it's all cut up, and because they film like 4 seconds. So I'm like, we got enough of the gag to go, okay, we know what we got to do. So then we'll fill in the rest, and we kind of, people at Frosty remembered some bits, and Lou taught us a few of the things. He says, you got to come off the ladder, walk this, step into the wheelbarrow, and get your foot stuck in the bucket, and the ballerina's going to get scooped up, and all this. So we kind of cobbled it together, but it was the first gag I ever really got to produce on the show, and it was successful. And so for 2 years I got to do this gag, and even to this day it probably is my favorite. I mean, people say you have a favorite, and like it's naming your favorite kid, but I really did like doing this because.
Do you have a video of it?
I do. I do have a video of it.
Did you ever get hurt performing?
I did. I got hurt quite a bit. In fact, we were doing the painter's gag, and it was still in Venice, and I used to climb a 12-foot ladder, and I sat on it was a vinyl, but it looked like wallpaper. And the midget would, there was a statue, and it squirted water in my face, and then the midget would try to get me to, and he would pull the wallpaper, and the ladder would start to rock, and I'd ride the ladder down. The things you do when you're 22, fall off a 12-foot ladder. But I was sitting on it, and the show was in rehearsal, opening. I think it might have actually opened. And he was a little excited. He pulled the vinyl, and it was wet because I was covered in soap. And he pulled me off the ladder. So the ladder didn't fall. I did. I just fell 12 feet off the ladder, landed on my stomach, and just kind of went, and I went, okay, we should cut the ladder down. Let's go 8 feet, because we don't need to. I don't know if I can survive any more 12-foot falls. And but I remember that was like, but I'm like, okay. And people were like, you're going to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, I think I'm just knocked the wind out of me. And I'm like, again, you're much younger. I should have probably went to the hospital, but I didn't. But yeah, that was probably I remember one of the first times I ever got hurt on the show. Didn't miss a show or anything, but it was part of the. You kind of got banged around a little bit, and that's when you learned how to do falls. If you were good at falls, it's because you could do them consistently without getting hurt. So if you did them and you got hurt, well, you're not a good fall clown, because you're just going to keep getting hurt. It's the trick is to be able to do them right, make them look funny, but not get hurt. So.
So, what years did you serve as producing clown?
I was probably producing clown from 1987 87, 88 till I left in 1995. And then I came back, Karen and I actually came back, I want to say 2001. And for 5 years, we were hired as the directors of clowning. This was after Clown College had closed down. So Ringling brought us in to work winter quarters for the clowns. So we were the directors of clowning. We would come in and work with the clowns on their routines. Obviously, we weren't in them, but we would produce them and help write them and stage them and direct them and present them to the felds and to the director of the show. So we did that for five more years. So that was after Clown College.
Well, knowing of some who didn't particularly like being directors of Clown College because Ringling did it differently than they did, to you it was a distinct advantage.
It was all I knew. You know, it was the first real exposure to clowning was Clown College, formal exposure. Some people that came to Clown College later, whether it was a dean or a director or even some of the clowns. I mean, I know Rob Merman, who was the dean for 1 year, had come from a European, even though he's an American, his training is in Europe. So he had a different mindset, I guess, character-based, which I think we were always a character-based, but at the same time we were character-based in the form of Ringling, in the sense of we're producing clowns to perform on this particular show, which has these particular restrictions or requirements as far as being a big arena show. You have to play in the round, you have to play quickly. So yeah, you're telling a story, you're just telling it very concisely. You know, I always look at it like a three-panel cartoon strip. It's your beginning, your middle, and your end. So you can tell a story that quickly. Eventually, as you grow as a clown, you become more comfortable, and you can do longer stories. But when I was starting out, 3 minutes was scary to fill 3 minutes. Whereas later on, you know, on Big Apple and in Circus World and other shows, we would do entrees that were, 11 minutes. So I was able to go to that length, but that came with confidence. I think as you grew as a performer, that's where you got that confidence. And I don't think when you're very few people coming right out of Clown College had the chops, I guess if you want to call it, to go right there. And that wasn't the style. They were coming in and going, all right, we're gonna train you to work in a 3-minute time period to tell a short story with a beginning, a middle, and end, and a blow off. Boom, do it. And if you're successful with that, eventually you're going to learn your character and your performance style. You can elongate, make that longer, especially in ring gags, which were a little more. They gave us more time. Mm-hmm. And if even though there was a Ringling, 3-4 minute thing, if your material was good, they let it go. They would let us do longer pieces, especially in the ring gags.
Right. Let's talk about your most recent experience in China, and how that experience totally you've done it before, right? So tell me how that experience blows your mind, if in fact it does, compared to the way clowns are treated in the U.S.
Well, I think the China experiences, the China festivals that we get to perform in are unique in that there's anywhere from 40 to 60 international performers. To get the invite to go to China, obviously, I think you're at a certain level because the producer really has to sign off on you. So it's not necessarily a gig for a 1st of May because they don't have the material or the confidence or the ability to do a 30-minute clown show, which is what is required of that particular job. And amongst other things, you have to go there and we're going to put you in a slot and you're going to work 30 minutes and you can have a partner, but it's going to be you for 30 minutes as a clown, entertaining people that don't speak English. So can you do that? And some people are very good at it and some people find that's not their forte. So I think it's a challenge, for some people to go there. For me, it's an opportunity too because they do take a certain amount of Ringling alumni, so that is fun for me. It's a fun element. It's a bit of a reunion, so we get to catch up on our lives and real time as opposed to just social media. And so that's great. And you get to see where they're doing and what kind of work they're doing and where they're gone in their life. And some of the Ringling Clowns do not wear any makeup at all anymore, or more of a character thing. And that's just their evolution. I wear makeup, not as much as I wear on Ringling. I don't wear my wig or anything like that in China, logistically, because it's really hot, and it's just at a point where I'm like, I wear my wig for certain Ringling-esque or iconic gigs. Like we just did a show at the Al Ringling Theater this last year when they had the Ringling reunion. So part of that was, well, this is a Ringling reunion of Ringling people, and we're doing a show that's celebrating Ringling. So I'm going to wear what I wore on Ringling. So people, this is what a lot of people go, I remember that costume and I remember the wig and you still look the same. And I said, God bless you, because it's been 20-something years and you say I still look the same. And that's really good. So, I would still wear the full out Ringling look. But then I kind of evolved that. I mean, it's still basically the same structure, I guess, the same makeup structure. It's just maybe a little more subdued. And I don't wear a wig and things like, I wear a hat and things like that. But, so when we get there, we also get to work with all these clowns from all over the world. So to me, that's a great learning experience. And again, it just informs our work a little more, because you're going, wow, these clowns from Argentina, they're kind of edgy. They're doing some really fun, different stuff. And it's like, I don't think I'd ever want to, I don't know if I'd ever tried that. But then I'm thinking, well, why not? It's like, look, it works. And so you think outside your box a little bit, and I think that's great. And they like to talk to us and look at what we're doing, and so it's a great exchange of information. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to get laughs, and so how we get them and how they get them, and sometimes at the end of the day, we're all using the same vocabulary, but they're speaking in Argentinian or Italian or German or French or Chinese or Japanese, and we're in English. So, but we're doing the same thing. So clowning, ultimately, even though we might all have been trained differently or came to this differently, we do have the same vocabulary.
In the third and final portion of our conversation, Greg DeSanto turns to the future of clowning and the institution of Circus itself.
So I think Ringling going away will, in a way, maybe kind of force smaller circuses and youth groups, youth circuses, to kind of reinvent themselves and rise to the occasion, because now there's this big gap.
Continuing the interview with Greg DeSanto, I'm Lane Talburt. See you at the circus.